Hi, everybody. This is Michelle Hill, your legacy builder at Winning Proof. And I haven't done one of these for a while. So I am back out of the tunnel and I have a really special guest to start out a new series, and that is Van Malone. And I am going to read a short bio of his, and then I'm going to list some of his coaching positions and just, stop it there so we can get into the conversation. So Van is currently assistant head coach, defensive pass coordinator, and cornerbacks coach for Kansas State University, and a former NFL player playing his entire career with the Detroit Lions. Now, Van has coached for Mississippi State University, Southern Methodist University, Oklahoma State University, University of Tulsa, Texas A&M, University of North Texas, Western Michigan University, and North Dakota State University. I think I got them all. So welcome, Van.
Great to be here. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
And we're going to... You were able to get them all in.
I did.
40 minutes to do that sometime.
I talked fast.
Good.
Yeah, so I want to start out by asking you to just tell the viewers of this podcast a little bit about Van the athlete and Van the coach.
Well, Van the athlete is very young, and he left many years ago, many years ago. But Van the athlete was a very competitive young man in some ways, right? And then in other ways, Van the athlete, as he's older, as he's Van the coach now, he realizes, man, you could have been so much more, if you would have worked a little bit harder. But that's what Van the coach does. Van the coach is always trying to push for more. Van the coach is always concerned with taking it a little bit higher. I've had the opportunity, like you said earlier, as Van the coach, to work with a lot of great coaches who also have taught me. But when I was Van the player, playing at the University of Texas, playing for the Detroit Lions, like you mentioned, I also had an opportunity to be around some great coaches, people who pushed me to my limits. And I've also had opportunity as a player to be around great players who I watched push themselves to their limits. Guys like Barry Sanders, guys like Lomas Brown, Herman Moore, Scott Mitchell, and Chris Spielman, and many more along those lines. Some of those guys are in the Hall of Fame or destined to be in the Football Hall of Fame. So Van the coach and Van the player has been incredibly blessed along this path.
Okay, that is awesome. And what did your time playing football and coaching really in college and the NFL teach you about team leadership and teamwork?
Well, I've been very fortunate as a player that I've been chosen as a captain in one way or another on every team that I've had a chance to be a part of. And so to be a captain says that your teammates and your coaches, they respect your work. They respect your commitment to the success of the team. And as a coach, I realize how important that is. As a player, sometimes I didn't realize the significance of that. But to be selected as a captain by your teammates, again, I know as a coach what that says. And I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to do it. As a coach, I understand the importance of that position. I understand the importance of leading. To be a coach, it's like you're a head coach. The head coach, as a position coach, you're the head coach of that position. As a defensive coordinator, you're the head coach of the defense. And as a head coach, of course, you oversee the whole team. It's important as a head coach that you realize the actions that you take, they affect all kinds of different people. They affect the equipment manager, they affect the trainer, they affect the strength and conditioning coach, they affect each one of the players from the starters to the backups. And so there's a lot of pressure, intense pressure that goes along with being the leader of the team. Well, as an assistant coach, actually as being the assistant head coach here at Kansas State, I have great respect for that position of head coach because I understand the importance of being a good communicator, the importance of making decisions that affect everyone. When you're an assistant coach, you only see your position. When you're a player, you only see yourself, right? You don't see how things affect the rest of the team. And so that's something that over the years I've really grown to understand is seeing the bigger picture and really seeing the team from the drone or the blimp view rather than the what's right in front of me version of it all.
Yeah, for sure. And is it true that coaches don't eat well because you're so busy? Is that just a head coach in the NFL that doesn't eat well? But how do you manage that?
I tell you what, now we it's not the most healthy environment if you make it that way, right? There's a lot of coaches on our staff here at Kansas State who to take care of themselves the right way. They exercise, they eat the right way. Well, that is a challenge because there is a lot of work that goes into this job, into this career, but you have to make sure that you take care of yourself. You have to make sure that you exercise. And there's a lot of careers out there that are just as, and if not more stressful than coaching. But it's important we as coaches realize we stress these things of maintaining a healthy life balance. We stress these things to our players. So it's important that no matter how hard it might be, that we take care of ourselves as well.
Yeah, for sure. Because you see a lot of, I think I did research one time that said no overweight NFL coach had ever won the Super Bowl or something, some
Okay.
stat, in the Super Bowl, yes, but I don't know if that's true or not. I had to think back. Andy Reid, it's been up and down. So I'm just wondering, useless facts I just love.
Yeah, well, I just think it's important that, that we all take care of ourselves, and your weight is dependent on, who you are, genetics or whatever it might be. And I'm one to talk. They call me Coach Snacks around here because I have snacks all in my closets.
Okay. Well, okay. So I want to touch on the balance, and you have a wife and 3 kids, Van, Vaughn, and Vincent. So how have you learned to balance the many responsibilities and the time commitment of coaching and your family?
Well, I think it's important that well, for me, I made a commitment long ago that I would, when I'm at the office, that I would be 100% committed to doing the things that it takes to be successful as a coach. But then when I went home, that I would be 100% committed to doing the things that are important to be successful and to be happy as a father and as a husband. And so I have coaching buddies who, when they go home, they talk about going into their man caves, and I think that's important to have time where you are able to wind down, where you are able to take care of yourself mentally, but your family, when they come into this profession, they deserve some of that attention as well. So I think it's important, and I know a lot of friends who do a great job of managing that, and no matter how challenging it is, they do a great job of managing what goes on at the office, because there is great pressure and tension and competitive juices that flow as we come into the office. But when we go home, it's important that you are able to put the same passion, the same energy into helping with homework, as you do in recruiting a young man into your program.
Yeah, that's awesome because you're not assistant head coach. You don't have the title at home. You're
Right,
you're a husband, you're a father,
right,
and they, I'm not going to say they don't care about that, but they want you, the person, to be
right.
present. So I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, when University XYZ tells you to pack your bags, then you're still gonna be somebody's dad. You know what I mean? And when you win the championship, you're still gonna be somebody's dad. And that's important. Which I understand as coaches. The place we live in, and it's a place where you have to devote your attention uh, to being successful. You have to devote your attention to what's going on with your team. But when that light goes off in your office, then it's a lot of fun when you're able to devote the attention to the place that it needs to be. And my family has had an opportunity to go to bowl games and have a lot of fun, and it's been even more fun, the fact that they've been able to experience that, and so they got to see all those late nights pay off.
Yes, they can see the big picture. This is why dad works a lot. But
And also, I happen to have one of my sons on the team here at Kansas State, and that's really cool because now he has proof that he can tell the rest of the family, no, he really is at work.
yes, exactly. Wow. So what major obstacles have you had to overcome in your, let's just say broad life and career?
Oh wow, there's quite a few, and of course we all face them every day. But I've had as a player, I've had injuries, and when you're a player and you face injuries, you have to fight the road back, to recover. Have to do rehab to find yourself in the place you were physically and sometimes mentally that you were before you were injured. And so that's a challenge that I've had to face. I've had to face as a coach. I've been fired. People use a lot of words. They use transition. They use reassign. I like to just say fired because as a coach, this is a very volatile career. And it's a career that is directly built off of performance. And sometimes your performance is not appreciated, right? And other times your performance is just not good enough, and sometimes it's just an unfair situation, and so it doesn't matter. You have to pick up the pieces. You have to get yourself together, and you have to move on to the next phase, to the next door, to the next step. And so I've had that experience, but each time that you face challenges, you have choices, right? You can either lie down and let that be the end of it, or you can choose to, like I said, you can pick up the pieces, you can keep moving forward and learn. What a loss is a learning opportunity. Stay strong, right? And that's what I tell our players is that's what a loss is. It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to be better. And so if you use it in that way, then even in a negative situation, you've been able to benefit. I've had, of course, I've had, like I said earlier, great experiences to be able to um, coach in bowl games, but and win bowl games. But I've also had the negative experience of losing bowl games, of having losing seasons, and no one goes into the game. No one practices the whole week to lose the game. No one starts a career to ever lose a game. Everyone starts the career because they want to win the national championship every single year. And they want to be the coach of the year every single year. That's why we started. That's why you play. You want to win the Heisman every year, right? But it doesn't work out like that. And so what we all have to do, and namely me, is we have to understand, again, when it doesn't work the way you would have dreamed for it to work, it worked that way for a reason, and you have to figure out, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, figure out what that reason was, and move forward with the advantage of having that information, of having that experience. I heard here recently that you don't have a message without a mess, and that you don't have a testimony without a test. And so I could go on and on. This would be a sad show. I could go on and on about the challenges that I've had, but all of the challenges, as I look back, as I look back in the rearview mirror, I know that those challenges help me to be ready for the next step, and they help me to grow. And at the moment, when I was in the heat, when the fire was breathing down on me, it didn't feel good. But as I look back, it made me a better person. It made me more prepared for the next thing that I had on my plate.
Yeah, without a doubt, they're building blocks. Each
Right.
challenge that we go through just are, each one is a building block. So if you could give aspiring coaches one great tip, what would it be?
Aspiring coaches, I never give them one great tip. I give them 15 or 20. But the one thing that I would say that encapsulates coaching is that you have to, and you've heard it, you've read it, you've seen it, but you have to care about creating relationships with the people you are with, right? And when I say relationships, that means that I'm your coach. You know that I care about you, so you're going to trust me. You're going to allow me to lead you. If I'm a staff member working with another, as a coach working with another staff member, there's going to be a high level of trust because you know that I care about you. We're going to form a relationship. We're going to, in the coaching world, it's just like the players. We're probably going to come from different walks of life. We're going to have different goals. We're going to have different thoughts. But if we can have a relationship that's built on love, and I say that word, love and genuine respect for one another, then we can survive. We can actually thrive. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat. It doesn't matter. That if you can be respectful, if you can lead with love, then you can go far. And so that's probably the biggest tip. And I just wrapped like 7 or 8 tips into one, but that's probably the biggest tip that I would give aspiring coaches.
I love that. Yeah, yeah. And I know a lot of coaches, so that is a great 7 or 8 tips wrapped in one. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So what would you, I want to turn a corner here, but what has been your greatest accomplishment in life?
Wow. That is, I mean, because when I was younger, I always used to think that, because I was younger as a coach, it's when I just got into coaching, and I saw some of my players graduate, and I saw some of my players graduate from college. Well, I was coaching in high school at the time, and I thought that was major, and I had kids, and I saw my kids get a little older, and now I just had a son to graduate. And yeah, I know some of these things I was a part of. I didn't do them all by myself, but I think that those are things that I've had my hand in. And I watched a young man that I coached in high school. He's now a college head coach, and so there's too many things that I could call on for that. Um, but and so I can't do it for you. I like to answer questions, but there are too many things that I consider really special in terms of the way the way I've influenced others. Yeah, me playing in the NFL. Okay, you want to count that? I don't necessarily count that. I guess when I was younger, I would have counted that. When I didn't realize the importance of impacting and helping others, I would have counted being in the NFL. I had signed my contract and I was in the mall one day, and being a young man who grew up poor, here I am in the mall, and it crossed my mind that, you know what, I can buy anything in this mall that I want, you know, and and that was for about 13 seconds. That was really cool to me. But then I realized, actually, I kind of got sad at that moment because I realized all my life I thought I was less than anyone else because I didn't have, right? Because I didn't have, I thought I was less. And I realized that I did have, I didn't have money, but at that moment when I was in that mall and I realized that the fact that I have this money, it makes me no better than anyone else. And I didn't have that money, it made me no different than anyone else. Again, the fact that I had lived my life that way, again, um, kind of made me a little bit sad. And so I don't necessarily consider that, working to be in the NFL and accomplishing that goal is great, but that's not, that's not why I'm put on this earth, right? I was put here to change the world through sports, right? To influence young men and young women to maximize their place on this earth, right? And so that's, as I continue to do those things, that's when I notch my stars. Unfortunately, they don't show up, right? It doesn't show up. My fruit don't pop off the tree, right? They pop off the tree with Tremaine Jackson, right? Coaching him many years ago in high school, pop up, here's my fruit. Now he's a college coach, right? It takes many years for my fruit, right? So not a great answer, but I did the best I could.
And I know you did not know these questions beforehand. And
Yeah.
that was a very general question. And I know it's really hard to zero in, but you did a really good job. So I want to kind of turn a corner now. And I want to talk about, most of us are familiar with in the NFL in the of the Rooney Rule. And that's, the NFL has had that in place since 2003. And it says, it requires every team with a head coaching vacancy to interview at least one or more minority candidates. So share your thoughts concerning the disparity of hiring Black coaches for head coaching positions and other leadership positions in college and the NFL.
Well, I say this, that when you are in front office roles in the NFL, and when you are in administrative roles on the university level, even in high school, when you lose your coach, your basketball coach, your football coach, we're talking about football. So when you lose your football coach, that's a highly stressful moment. And when you are in that highly stressful moment, generally what we do is we grab for what's familiar to us, right? We go for what we know. When we are struggling, we actually don't venture out and explore new things when we're under stress. We go back to our safe moment. And I think that's what happens or generally that's what happens when you talk about hiring. And so what the challenge is to me, and what the challenge I see it as, is that people who are under that stress, guess what? Time out. The stress comes from the media, the stress comes from donors, the stress comes from fans, and the stress is to act quickly, right? Go now, let's go. We need something. We need who are we following here, right? We got to get somebody. Let's go. The searches, they turn around in 3 or 4 days and they're happening quickly, right? And that comes from the press, the stress of the press. And that comes from the stress of the fans, and that comes from different levels, from different entities. Well, I think that, um, or I challenge people who are in those positions to to broaden their perspectives, right? Because there's strength in diversity. There's strength in seeing things from different lenses. There's strength in looking at it from a different viewpoint. And when you talk about coaching, when you talk about the coaching hires, um, it's a challenge to go out on a limb and go some place you hadn't been and to think about things you hadn't thought about. That takes time. If you're going to do it right, that takes time. And so I think, minority coaches, and then when we talk about minority, when we talk about it's a situation where in everything that we do, we talk about women, we talk about all different nationalities, not just Black coaches, but all different nationalities. We have Latin coaches, we have Polynesian coaches, we have different coaches of color. And, it's a situation where, um, we just need to broaden our view. I think that's a challenge for all levels of football is for leaders to accept that challenge and to slow down and to, diversify my thought. Guess what? Another level of pressure should come from those coaches of color to say, listen, I know there's pressure from these entities to speed up, but there's pressure from this group and this group and this group to slow down and to diversify your thought and to think about the advantage, the great edge that you could have if you looked at things from more than the perspective of who you know, of the familiar, of the same old, and that's kind of my thought with the Rooney Rule. I think this is a heart, this is a heart situation. You can shame people all you want, right? But shaming does not make people operate. You have to number one, you have to have guardrails, right? And that's the Rooney Rule. But in the NCAA environment, you have to have guardrails, you have to have practices that we all agree upon. But everyone has to be challenged for diverse thought. And I think we are in our society, we are in that moment, right? We are in that moment, and across the board in our society, we have risen to the level of understanding and being committed to thoughts of diverse operation.
Yes, and that brings up a good question, because once a Black coach gets, and there have been very few, but once a Black coach gets, say, an NFL head coaching position, does he have to work twice as hard as the white coaches to prove himself? Is that element present?
Well, I think that he has to work hard. I mean, the NFL is a stressful league, and it is a high stress, very competitive league. And so I think that black, white, green, yellow, blue, this coach has to understand the level that he has to operate at to be successful. And I would say that as proven, right? That's not me talking, but as proven, uh, a minority coach, a Black coach has to uh, be successful. He has to be successful. Uh, if I were a head coach in the NFL, I would feel the pressure that I would have to be successful as fast as I could. I would imagine that the white coach would feel the same pressure, but I would feel it in my own mind a little bit more because of what I've seen in terms of minority coaches being fired, being relieved of their duties if they were not successful immediately, right? And guess what? We all as coaches understand that that's not a Black thing, that's not a white thing, that's a coach's thing. And so when we're putting in those positions, um, then we understand that. No, there's not any black coaches who want to be in the position because he's a black coach. I think, we talk about these things, and coaches are not hired. Uh, Race is such a part of it, right? It's such a part of it. You say, well, what, who cares about a person's race? Like that should be like at the bottom of the qualification, at the list, right? That's at the bottom. The discussion even of that should be way low at the bottom, right? What should be discussed is, okay, what kind of offense are you going to run? Okay, what's your philosophy on discipline? Okay, how are you going to control this? What's your plan? That should be high, right? Well, in this society we live in, right? We're polarized. We want to know, how are we different, right? We want to know, we're going to always put people in the categories, into the boxes, and so that ends up being raised. That's a higher level that we deal with, and it's not fair on any level. That that's something that we would discuss. It's not fair in some cases when we don't hire a black coach. It's not fair in other cases when the black coach is interviewed because he's black. You know what I mean? Or if he gets the job because he's black. Let's deal with people on their merit and their performance across the board, black, white, blue, green, yellow. Let's hire you. Let's maintain your position based off of your merit. And when we don't do that, I think it's kind of unfair.
Yeah, it on so many levels. So
As is life. Life is not fair. Someone would say that. Oh, life is not fair. Yeah, okay. But let's try to be fair, right?
yeah, let's try. So to kind of build on that, the research I did, people of color represent 69% of the players and 35% of assistant coaches. So do the powers that be really believe that a titled black coach will be satisfied in that position for the long term?
Yeah, I think that if you put a person in a position of leadership, um, then if you give a coach a title, right? You give a coach a title, and he aspires to be more. Well, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get, for me in my operation here at Kansas State, I work with a fabulous head coach, and he is always giving me opportunities to grow, right? Because we've had discussions about the fact that I want to be a head coach, and so he continually does all that he can to challenge me, to put me in those positions to do that, and he understands that one day I'm going to get that opportunity. Well, if there's no way for him not to, and we discussed this, there's no way for him not to anticipate that that's what I want to do, and that he would not have expectations, or that he would not be pushing me to that. And so to answer your question, yeah, I would think that coaches would want more.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I want to talk about this. In 2003, you served on an NFL minority coaching fellowship with the Detroit Lions. So tell people who are watching a little bit about the fellowship and your role.
Well, so that program has grown, it has developed, it has changed since 2003. But what I had an opportunity, because of course I played most of my career in Detroit, so I had an opportunity to go back there and to be a coach, right? And Steve Mariucci's, who was the head coach at the time, his staff said, "Listen, you come in here, and we want you to dig in, and do everything you can to, number one, help our team grow and be successful. But this is like an interview for you." Well, at that moment, I didn't want to be an NFL head coach. So I did want to help the team. I did have great pride in the Detroit Lions and helping them do all that I could. And so, I poured my all into that. And it was a great experience, again, because they opened the doors to give me that opportunity. And I think that most of the minority internship opportunities in the NFL in their program, that's what it's about. It's the Bill Walsh Fellowship, and of course, Bill Walsh is known or was known for his willingness, his commitment to developing young coaches, developing minority coaches, doing all that he could with the coaches in the HBCUs, especially to try to bring them in and allow them the opportunities to grow, and then also to give them opportunities if it grew to that, to be assistant coaches, to eventually be on an NFL staff. And so, like I said, though, that program has grown. It has developed from being a camp situation, a training camp situation, to now being really a full year internship, a full year situation. I've seen many guys be hired from the summer camp opportunities that they got, but I do anticipate even more guys have an opportunity to be hired when they can spend even more time with the staff and develop relationships and learn to coach on that level of football.
Oh, that's excellent. I love that. So what's with going back a little bit to the black coaches, minority coaches, white coaches, the percentage of players, of course, in the NFL are black, and we all see that fraction. Okay, so what's the solution? Will legislation change the current climate, or does there have to be like you said before, a change of hearts and minds for any lasting change to take place? What will make more black head coaches in the NFL?
Well, in the NFL, the NFL is a private entity. You know what I mean? It's the owners, and in some ways, the fans, the media kind of directs that boat. So I think that, continually the coaches and the players are going to have to, stand up for things that happen within that league. And of course, the owners will make the decisions. But when it comes to college, I think there's paths. I think one of the paths in the NFL, of course, is a part of this path, the NFL and the NFLPA, and that path is developing coaches, right? Continuing to develop more coaches, to put on staffs. I'm talking assistant coaches, right? More coaches to be a part, more coaches to commit to being a part of the profession, former athletes to turning around and jumping into the coaching profession, so that they can one day get into the pipeline to be a coordinator, get into the pipeline to be a head coach, coaching on the lower levels of football, the Division III and the Division II levels of football, so that you can ascend from those ranks and find yourself in position to be able to get to those head coaching jobs. So that's the one path, is the pipeline to increase the numbers of coaches, because there are fewer minority coaches in the ranks. Well, then when you are a minority coach and you aspire to be in these positions of leadership, then having things set up, programs set up, which the NCAA has done a good job of having academies to train coaches. But you know what, honestly, there's quite a few coaches who are capable at this moment, right? And so the NCAA has a database called the NCAA Collective, and it's a database of coaches that the NCAA has vetted, so that programs can go into this database and look around and search to find out who fits the profile that we're looking for at University XYZ. And And so now, we are solving the problem, the question, the issue of not having enough capable candidates. And so this leadership, the NCAA Leadership Collective, is being able to provide that. And so the next path is I believe legislation, right? Because again, that's what I call the guardrails. You have to set up guardrails to say there are the West Coast Conference is a conference that has not what's called the Rooney Rule, but the Russell Rule. And the Russell Rule is within that conference is a guardrail situation to say this is how we're going to do it in this conference. Is if we have a position of leadership, these are the rules that you must follow if you're a member of this conference. And that, those things, the combination of things, right? They work. If I'm a recruit, that's the next path. If I'm a recruit, then before I take a serious look at a university, that university has to prove to me that you are about diversity. Here at Kansas State, we have an assistant head coach who is a minority coach. We have a strength coach who is a head strength coach. That it doesn't happen across the country. There are a few programs, but this person is touching your team at times when the coaches are not allowed to interact with them, are not allowed to touch them, right? And so this is such an important piece on your football team. Well, we at Kansas State have entrusted that to a minority coach, and there are not many across the country. And so when you talk about hiring, right? What is your staff? What is the dynamics of the staff, right? But then where is the leadership within the staff to prove to a recruit and his family that diversity is important to you? And that's kind of what those are the pathways, I believe. Not one will be the long-term answer, but I think a combination of people walking down these paths, organizations being committed to these paths will change come.
Yeah, good. I love that answer. Love it. And just one, this isn't on my list of questions, but why isn't there more Black ownership in the NFL?
Well,
there's plenty of Black millionaires, billionaires out there. Why do you think?
Well, I think you have to have Black people with enough money, with interest in being an owner. You know what I mean? With interest in being the owner of a team. And I would say that there's not as many Black million and billionaires. I really like the way that sounds. I wish I could be one of those people one of these days, a billionaire. But anyway, you have to have two components. You have to have a Black billionaire, and that Black billionaire has to have interest in being an owner. But then the exclusive nature of NFL ownership, right? There are only so many NFL teams, and to be an owner of the team, the other teams almost have to allow you to be an owner of the team, right? And so you just can't create a team. So there's actually three components. You got to be a billionaire or a multimillionaire. You have to have interest in being an owner. And then the people who own the teams, they have to be willing to allow you to be a part of their club, And so I think gathering all three of those is a difficult task at this moment for us to find a Black owner. If I get $1 billion, then I'll think about it.
That's right. Just a matter of time.
Right.
Absolutely. And some of the ownership too is generational, multi-generational, like the Jones with the
Right,
Cowboys. You
right,
just pass the ownership down from generation to generation. So
right,
that that has to be a preventative thing too. So,
right.
you know, I want to turn another corner. We're going in a circle here, but I want to turn another corner and just ask you, what do you and your family do for fun? What do you enjoy doing together? What activities, vacations do you really enjoy doing with
Oh
each
man,
other?
as a coach, you don't get much like vacation time because the year is divided into, I mean, there's a lot of recruiting, right?
Yes.
You are always recruiting. Even when you go on vacation, you're recruiting.
Yes.
But the month of July is one, and then there's other periods throughout the year. But the month of July is a big time vacation moment for me and my family. And so we've had the opportunity to visit Florida. We like Orlando most. We've had the opportunity to visit Las Vegas. And so, that's always a lot of fun. We've had the opportunity to visit the British Virgin Islands. Um, had the opportunity to visit Aruba, Jamaica, the Bahamas, Hawaii. We actually played in a bowl game in Hawaii. And so the vacations, to me, they give my family and I an opportunity to be the thing, or to do the things that we don't get an opportunity to do most of the year, right? We do understand, I understand. My kids don't understand, but I understand a life a
Yeah.
life without a vacation. I understand that. I understand the incredible blessing that it is to be able to get on a plane and go somewhere and hang out. That there's an incredible blessing within that. And so again, my kids, that's kind of what they know. And so I try to stress that to them, that with this comes great responsibility, comes great responsibility to one day, you know, be willing to um, pay it forward, to help others, and know that, and this thing that you're getting an opportunity to do is not because of you. It's because of a whole lot of other people who have sacrificed for you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and that's so important, as we talked before about the balance between coaching and family, and there isn't a lot of balance. You have to really be proactive in making that balance, because if it won't come unless you make it.
Right. Yeah, I think that, again, this world of coaching and being a player is a highly competitive world. And it's like being on a treadmill, right? The moment you miss a beat, if you don't hold on, if you don't keep up, you'll fall off, right? But then the moment you jump off to go on vacation, right? The moment you step away, you look away and you jump off, well, it's still going, right? And so if you jump back on, you better jump on running, because it's still going. And that's just what it is. And at some point, your legs get tired. At some point, you get tired of running, right? You get tired of it. And then that's when coaches, they kind of fade off of it, but it still keeps going. You know what I mean? Players, they retire, they're in their careers, they just can't do it anymore. But it still keeps going, and that's a great thing, right? I always call it the machine, right? The machine, it needs more food. So you got it, right? And it's been an incredible opportunity for me to be able to this world of playing and coaching at a very high level, for me to be able to participate in it, excel in it as long as I have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And before we close, any final thoughts that you
Well,
have?
well, I just want to acknowledge the work that you do, and thank you for your willingness to inspire people. I say this to you, is that there are certain people in the world, your purpose is to help others. And I feel that for you. And I thank you, for allowing me to have the opportunity to be a part of your podcast. And just hope that we can connect again, and share time as well.
Yes, I appreciate that so much, and I appreciate your time. Can you tell people how to connect with you if they want to connect with you on social media?
Well, I'm really not the best technological guy, but on Twitter, I do know my Twitter handle. I think that's what you call it. It's Van B Malone the third 3RD. And then I also do my podcast. It's taped generally, and it's Winners Win with Van Malone. You can find it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And that's probably a podcast commercial. But wherever you get your podcast from, that's where you get it from. Right? Podcast.com, podcast or us. So that's where you can find me.
That is wonderful. I really appreciate you taking your time today. I know we
Sure.
had another one scheduled, and
Right.
you had a team meeting, and then
Yeah.
it was several months, I think, or a couple months. It seemed like forever until we reconnected, and
Right.
and then I'm sending you messages saying, are we still on for 7:30? Are we still on?
Yeah. Well, the thing, and that's another thing, in this world, is that all of a sudden you'll be going to the right, and then
Yes.
you make an audible. Okay, we're going to the left. You know what I mean? We're going forward. Okay, especially as you've operated in the time of COVID. I got my mask around my neck right now, and it's just you. As coaches, we always say you got to have hot feet. You gotta keep your head on the swivel, and you got to have hot feet. And there's a level, like I said earlier, there's a level of joy. Is it joy that you get from being like that? Being on alert. There's something that drives us coaches to be that way. Not everyone likes that mode, but for coaches, I mean, it's high stress, it's type A, and that's kind of what we live off of.
Yeah, absolutely. Adrenaline.
That's it.
Pure adrenaline. Well, I thank you. And I just want to let people know, if you want to get in touch with Winning Proof, I am your legacy builder at Winning Proof, and I am a book and publishing consultant. And I love to help people tell their stories. I have ghostwriters on my team, editors, proofreaders, cover designers, book marketers, everything you could need to write and publish your book. So, and I love what I do too. And it's kind of like being a coach for writers or for people who want to publish their books. So that's what I do too. You can reach me at winningproof.com. That's my website. And you can also reach me at my email, winningproof@gmail.com. And I'm on most social media, LinkedIn. I'm very active, Facebook, Twitter. I think that pretty much covers it. And I use Pinterest, but that's only for finding new recipes. So you won't find me on Pinterest that much. So anyway, thank you everybody for watching this episode of Winning Proof Unscripted. And until next time, see you later.